Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Hervin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights. Episode number 58 coming at you right now.
58. So that's 229s, whatever that means.
No, that's a good thing. I like that.
2 primes, you like that?
Yeah, I love primes. We've talked about that before. Actually, I to get the show notes to put it into an AI because I hate writing show notes. Like, it feels like I've already done this. Why am I doing it again? So I use AI to summarize the episodes. Plus, it does a better job of actually pulling out like the details and things. My show notes tend to be like poems, which are not helpful about like what we actually talked about. Mm-hmm. Plus, I don't remember by the end of the episode sometimes the things that we talked about. It's so free flowing. Mm-hmm.
So it listens to the entire dialogue and summarizes it.
Yeah, but we had an intro where we talked about math and being a math teacher. Like, we talked about math for like probably a good 8 minutes, and so then in the summary, like it really like heavily talked about math. I was like, nope, I got to change that. Mm-hmm. That was just the intro. You can't pay attention to the intro, AI. Come on.
It's so weird because when I woke up this morning, I was fixated on, the basis for different cultural math systems. I don't know why I wake up and think about this kind of crap. I don't understand. But base 10 is what it is. That's what we work with metric system and everything. But the old French system was something like base 12 or base 20. And that looking at the way they name numbers. So
yeah, Sumerian was base 20, and that's where
Sumerian was base 60, wasn't it?
I thought it was. Is it 60?
Well, that's where we get 60 minutes in an hour and 360 degrees in a circle. And
the base 20 systems are why we have teen numbers in our language. But base 12 was really prevalent, I think, in Germanic areas, and it makes math a lot easier when you do base 12.
Yeah. Well, and the Franks were Germanic too. People think that just because the French speak a Romance language that they're, I don't know, they associate everything with French towards the south, but the Franks were German. Mm-hmm. And so, when you look at the numbers in French, 1 through 12, each one of those is its own unique name. Actually, no, they go all the way to 16. But in English, we go from 1 to 12. It's when you get to 13, when you're like taking two numbers and putting them together. But 1 through 12, those are all singular ideas.
Yeah, that's the base 12 part of the language. So yeah, it made dividing things into like thirds and fourths like so easy.
Yeah, halves, thirds and fourths. Yeah.
The base 10, we have you get decimal points like immediately.
Yep. You get 5, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's the only one that goes
1/2. You're done.
Well, or I guess 20 fifths. You can do fifths or you can do halves, but you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
With base 12s, you can do sixths, you can do fourths and thirds and halves and all sorts of stuff.
Well, let's roll some dice and see what.
And with 29s, you can do exactly nothing.
Nothing. Except make 58.
Except make 58s. Okay, so we only have 1 through 4 on this die. We'll see what we get.
All right. Base 4.
We're starting with the projections.
Which number is that?
Excuse me, the professions, the deck number 2. Just the regular old literal professions, and it'll be card number. Where do you go? 17.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head what 17 is, so we must not have done it very much.
How dare you not have all 49 cards memorized?
Oh, well, this is an interesting one. It is right in the midst of fire. So we have yellow and aqua. This is where I do intersects with I say. So doing, interacting with expressing. I profess that I do that which I claim and that which I advise. I profess that I do that which I claim and that which I advise. So practicing what you preach.
I like that. It's a good place to start, especially for a podcast, right?
Yeah. If you're going to talk about doing something, maybe you should go out and actually do it.
I'm reminded of, giving yourself your own good advice. I feel like that vibe's in here. Because definitely. It is easy to dish out ideas and thoughts and you shoulds, but it's hard to sometimes take those in yourself and bring them down to real, actionable things for yourself. And we're always so kind to others, but we're often not as kind to ourselves. And that's another card. I can't remember which card that is. Which one's the one that talks about being kind to yourself?
Mm-hmm. I profess that I say kind words about others, or especially myself, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I profess that I say kindness, especially to myself or about myself, something like that. Yeah.
Is that part of the Aqua series?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would have to be if it's a nice say. Yeah, I profess that I say truth kindly and kindness truthfully, especially to myself.
Yeah.
Number 29. Oh, there's the 29.
There's the 29.
29's not useless.
So that's that. I just get a strong sense of that energy here with this card.
Yeah, and a reminder to be aware of what hypocrisy looks like. It isn't always aggressive. It isn't always malicious, but can still undermine you in ways that you're not aware of. Because if it's subtle or gentle, we don't necessarily think of it as hypocrisy. But if you're not doing what you say you do, then that's hypocritical. So if you're going to be kind to other people, you should be kind to yourself. If other people are deserving of that kind of grace, then so are you.
I'm reminded of a video I saw recently where this woman was talking about transparency versus honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And being, of course, a fantasy fan, we love the Fae. And the Fae have made an art of telling the truth, which is not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be truthful, right? You can say something truthful. It is true, but it doesn't mean what you say that it means or what it implies that it means. Whereas transparency is about actually, showing true action, true things. And being sort of open about them rather than being opaque with a half truth or a veiled truth.
Yeah. So if you say the sky is blue, but you don't tell anybody that there's a meteor crashing through that blue sky to come kill you, then it's not really helpful to tell the truth that the sky is blue.
Exactly. Like what's up?
The sky is up. It is. It definitely is up.
Yeah, it's true.
But that up in this instance means what's happening.
Yeah. So I think there's that transparency. Like I think the fifth chakra has like you talk about hypocrisy. I think about transparency. Like it has a sort of sense of cut through the lies and the cloudiness and just like a clear bell. Like when I think about the voice and the fifth chakra, I think about it as this clear sound, like this pure sine wave, mm-hmm. which is, indistinguishable, non-distinguishable. I can't talk. You can't help but pick it out, I think is what I'm trying to say. There's a word for that, but I can't think of what that word is. But like when you hear a pure sine wave, it's obvious that's what it is. Like mm-hmm. there's no other sound like it.
And with this particular intersection, since it's happening right in the middle of the third chakra, that's probably why you want to keep talking about the third chakra, as I kept mentioning fire and yellow. It's taking those truths, taking that transparency and doing something with it, and acting upon it. So how do you embody, how do you project, how do you manifest whatever this truth is?
Embodying is its own form of transparency, and that's, I think, where the hypocrisy that you were talking about comes from. Because if you don't walk your talk, then you're not really doing much but spouting hot air, right?
Right. And if you drop it down another two chakras to the first one, if this were Muladhara and earth and red, that one is, I'm pretty sure I profess that I am the words that ring true. And that's definitely embodying what you say. Mm-hmm. It's definitely making yourself the actual paragon of your own truth. Here, the reminder is to take action so that it can be true. Mm-hmm. And if you don't take action, you run the risk of this being way up in the third eye, which is where you just imagine all these really great things and you imagine all these really great truths, but they just stay in your head. So each one of them has their association, but here, take action, do. Be honest, be transparent, do.
And our words are interesting. Obviously, I mean, we're on a podcast right now and our words are coming to you who is listening. And hopefully we're having an effect upon you. You know, we're speaking truth as we understand it. And, you know, you're listening to this and hearing it. And that's a lot of how we share anything that goes on internally with someone external. It was difficult, you know, when we couldn't translate and things like that. There was a lot of tension where, you know, if you don't share language, it's really hard to share things like truth, like bigger concepts. And the power, like the as much as your fire burns, right, to share, you have to have a common language. And I think that is a problem that we run into in modern society. We're actually losing common language because even facts are distorted. Like even truths that we would, you know, supposed to consider self-evident don't seem to be anymore. So I think that's an interesting place for us to start. Is enacted truth. Enacted truth, communicated truth, you know, a bridge. And I'm just kind of curious how much of that bridge has to be built from the other side. That's the image I'm having kind of in my head is, you know, the transatlantic tunnel, right? Or was it the channel? No, it was the channel, where they built from both sides and met in the middle.
Yeah, and they did. They could hear each other tapping through the wall. The alignment was so perfect. The math was so perfect. The engineering was so perfect that they could actually hear each other tapping on either side of the wall before they breached and connected. I was curious what the inversion of this would be if this were I say intersecting with I do, if this was aqua over yellow. And that one is I profess that I say my words in the spirit of inspiring others to goodness. So it's interesting because when you practice what you preach, you become a role model that other people can look at and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. I see this truth. I see how it works in action. I can do this as well. So even the mirror image of this is still valuable, not only to yourself, but to others.
Role model is a good word for this. I think we can kind of keep that. Maybe that's our focal point. I see bridging. Role model's great, right? You kind of building an island in that case, or manning a ship that others can join. You know, like you're creating a haven, right? Like an oasis, something to keep you and others in the truth. So yeah, that's a good route. I think I'm gonna pull one of mine. Let's see if we can expand upon that somehow. Very, very active this morning. That's nice. Sometimes I feel muted when I'm doing this. It's not always the best. I do have my amethyst pyramid, but we moved it to make it look pretty on my desk, and now it's like really far away from my hands.
Oh, so it's not actually acting upon its truth.
Well, yeah, like all my crystals are like my spouse set them up very neatly, and it's very pretty on the desk, but like they're like a good 2 arm lengths away. So I'm like, come to me, crystals, come. Okay. We have this is an interesting one. I've been thinking about this card a lot lately. This is number 7 in the major arcana. It's called the Director in my deck. It's also known as the Chariot. Oh, sorry, the Chariot. The Chariot. If you tell yourself you can, then you will.
Oh, okay. Well,
if you tell yourself you can, then you will.
So whatever this truth is that you're trying to model, see yourself doing it and then jump right in. When I was teaching dance, that was, and actually as a personal trainer as well. When someone's having difficulty with a skill, I tell them to pause. I tell them to imagine doing it and then to attempt it. And then they can, because imagining yourself doing something sets yourself up to actually do it. It prepares your nervous system to allow it to happen. There are singers who, when they're going to hit a high note, they start thinking about that note before they ever hit it. And then they can just slide right into that high note. So visualization is extremely helpful. And in this way, maybe the fear that you need to enact is intimidating or scary, but it still needs to be done. So just imagine yourself doing it. Imagine people seeing it and seeing it as something they also want to model, and go forth with confidence.
Agreed. Here's what I wrote about this. I said, you will find that you can influence others around you long before you realize just how much you influence yourself in ways you never even saw. As a child, you learn to influence your parents for food and attention. Being able to use your intention to create influence is a skill that leads you along this journey, but it is the surface of a deep ocean that needs to be mastered. The voices in your head are more powerful than any influence from without. Do you speak to yourself with one voice, one intention, safe and secure, knowing what it is you strive for, what you will for yourself to achieve? You learn to influence others, to aid others, to save others, or that when it's time, you know the words you need for yourself.
It's nice how it all lines up, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we've just been talking about exactly this, and this card comes up in the story that I'm working on. The characters are based on the first 7 of the major arcana in my deck, and the director is one of the interesting ones that I've been playing with. It's a fascinating card because in the way that I conceived of it, it is someone influencing without touching, like without directly manipulating. So like the reason I call it a director is because an orchestra director gets everybody to play the piece, but they don't directly play any of the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And it is their will, right, that binds the orchestra. And yes, orchestras could play without a director. They could. It's possible, but really insightful directors with a vision create magic. There's a reason why Toscanini's Beethoven sounds very different than Schulte's Beethoven. It's not just that one was NBC Philharmonic and the other one was the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. There's more to it than that.
Yeah, there's more finesse. There's more sense of timing and legato and volume and tempo, and all that goes together to presenting the same written piece of music in different ways. I mean, isn't it true now that we prefer music to be played much faster than what the composers actually intended when they wrote the pieces?
Often, yeah.
Okay, so it's it's interesting because even with a form that's written down, whether it's words or music, it still has to be interpreted.
Yep. Well, and the problem, of course, is that like the composers didn't have like a beats per minute thing. Like a lot of modern composers write the tempos as beats per minute, and that's almost like a little bit of a handicap, right? And my own director when I was in college often disregarded that. he was like,
"It's a guideline,
good suggestion, but no." Like we've talked about this before, but the piece Tempest for handbells, when the Raleigh Ringers, who it was written for, play it, they play it slower. Mm-hmm. But when our choir played it, we played it faster, and I think it sounds better faster because I think it doesn't sound like a storm when it's played too slow. It sounds beautiful and interesting, but you don't get the visualization of this like impending doom and this thundering
energy.
Yeah, this thundering assault of rain. And it's just interesting how those images move and change. Actually, it's funny. The reverse of this is true for movie trailers. They often take a pop song, slow it way down, throw a little bit of a minor key underneath it often, and then play that in the trailer because it creates this sort of suspenseful, drawn out experience.
I've heard them do that specifically with Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm. So Yeah, the way that you
I think
interpret a piece.
The titles of their songs always confuse me, but I'm pretty sure it's Kashmir.
The more you influence a thing, it's still true, right? Going back to our anchor card, it's still true, but it is an interesting truth, right? It's a different kind of truth. And that can be important too. Like I was watching videos, like on Saturdays I wake up, I watch some videos and I come do this with you. And I was watching a video and they were talking about turn the other cheek, and how it was misunderstanding, according to them. And I haven't looked at the truth of this. So, take this as someone's opinion that I have not verified, but it was interesting. He was saying that if you turn the other cheek, like most of the time you'll be backhanded. And that was a sign of disrespect. But if you turn the other cheek, the person's would be hitting you open-handed, and that would be treating you as an equal. So it was like undermining.
The way I heard that explained was that you turn the other cheek in order to show defiance and to allow them to hit you again, that you're not going to back down. Whether it's backhanded or open-handed, I don't know.
The same is this similar thing, similar vibes. So, right, the point that I took away from it is that it's undermining.
Yeah, it's undermining their authority or their power to be abusing you. And I understand, but that's very specific about about the backhand versus you can slap somebody and that means that they're your equal. If you slap somebody in the first place, you don't think that they're your equal.
Well, I mean, I think even today though, backhanding someone versus slapping someone is still very different.
Yeah, backhanding. Yeah, pimp slapping. I guess that's a whole, another.
I mean, you just said
level
it right there.
Degradation lower.
You called it a pimp slap.
So it's another degree of degradation, but it's still degrees of degradation. It's not equality. You can't just walk up to somebody who's your equal and slap them in the face. I
mean, yeah. But the point is that it was about undermining. And so there's an interesting, riff on the truth. It's the words are there, but the understanding the cultural context and things like that makes it different. And that's kind of the point that I was going for.
Yeah, I understand.
So there's a context to things. And that context is very important. When we do this, we take someone's statement and we take it out of the context and we're like, this is a horrible person. Look at what they said. And it's like, that's not what they said though.
Well, that's also like saying the sky is up without mentioning the meteor that's about to crash into the planet's surface. It's like, so yes, they did say these words, but they're couched within other meaning, and you left that out specifically to change the meaning of their words. Yeah. So it's not dishonest. It's not honest when you prune away all the context to create the context you want. That's not truth.
Well, and I think, obviously we do this in media and stuff, but I think we do this with ourselves and with our fellows as well. I think sometimes we glom on to what was said instead of what was intended. Mm-hmm. And we can just haunt ourselves with that kind of thing. Like we can wallow in that kind of thing where it's like, oh, they said this. Yeah, but did you go back and really look at the circumstance and say, did they mean what it sounded like they said, or did they mean something different? And I think that's part of being honest with yourself is, are these wounds that you're carrying with you inflicted by how you're interpreting what's happening, or how you're not, facing the reality of what happened, which is not to say that you haven't been wounded, but just that, you can kind of carry a situation where the word stung, but if you really go back and open it up, that's not what was intended. Like that wasn't what it was meant. And you have to kind of take that into consideration.
And then you also have to take into consideration when people who know that try to use it as a shield, mm-hmm. who will say, you took my words out of context, so you go to trouble to go find the full context. And it's exactly what they meant.
Yes. No, and that's where truth needs to cut through those kind of things. Like, did you just react and miss something? Or did you hear it perfectly well and understand something? And I think, this is true of internal talk as well. Like,
the
things that we say to ourselves. do we mean to say that? Or are we just kind of repeating things that have hurt us before, or repeating negative things because we've never worked on? Like, I don't like cognitive behavioral therapy. It doesn't work for me in particular, but it is powerful for people. And your self-talk, depending on how your internal monologue works, your self-talk can be very, very powerful. And if you can change it, right? If you can overcome the negativity of it, that's amazingly powerful for someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you are out modeling all of this, you can help other people figure it out too.
And it's little things like sorry, right? If the first thing that you do is apologize when someone maybe challenges you or questions you or just pushes back on what you said for half a second, you know, that's a powerful statement of like, oh, okay, I was wrong. Versus, no, I said something important. You know, let's talk, let's clarify, let's have a conversation, right? The director is about willpower. Like you have to stand up for yourself. If you are speaking truth, if you spoke truth, then you have to own it and you have to be there with it, and people will push back. Even if your truth is inconvenient. So because otherwise it's not your actual truth. The next card in the 7th. So in my deck, the major arcana is 3 cycles of 7. And of course, going through the chakras. This is the crown chakra meets the throat chakra, by the way. I forgot to say that. The director is the crown chakra meets the throat chakra. But there is, you have to stand in your truth, and you have to be able to defend it. But the next card in the sequence, the next 7, is the Temperance card, or what I call balance. And the idea is that this, power to will, this will to power, right, that we have as people requires balance and connection and understanding. Like, we can't just, throw our will at the wall, right? Or try to direct other people towards our own goals without thinking through them. This is where, like, Nietzsche and others, I think, get it wrong. It's not just about having power over other people and exerting it because you are the Ubermensch, right? It's how are you working with other people towards a global consciousness, right? A global goodness. Mm-hmm. Shall I roll? Yes, roll, please. Okay, the deck number 3, that's the intersection, so the really abstract, pretty ones. $24. Good number. That's because it comes out at 12. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 24 is right in the middle of I love, green, wood, and where it intersects with water, blue, I see, the third eye. So how the way you make connections is influenced by the way you perceive the world and what you know. Green over blue. Very pretty. Oh, that is very pretty. Very pretty. If you go to our YouTube channel and see how pretty this card is. It's so pretty. It's a bouquet of loveliness. Yeah. So I love intersecting with I see. Connecting and how it's impacted by the way you perceive the world. The way you learn what you learn. And that's important because so it's not that it's not that the third eye is intersecting the heart, it's that the heart is intersecting the third eye. Mm-hmm. So the way in which you make connections, that is what influences how you learn or see or perceive. So that's looking at attachment styles or love languages or the context within your own life in terms of friendship and dating and marriage and all these different types of connections. Yeah, your heart chakra and my heart chakra have some differences. We're both in the same arena, but like we're playing in different end zones a little bit. There's a lot more internalness to my heart chakra, and I feel like there's more externalness to yours by comparison. But either way, there's still that idea of the reaching out and the spaces that people leave, and joy and connection, like true happiness.
Well, it's also the bridge between the lower self and the upper self. Mm-hmm. It's right there in the center. So it performs a lot of different important functions in terms of binding. And I don't mean binding necessarily in the way that vines choke trees, but still connecting, the way branches interact, the way roots interconnect. So it is the place where you latch onto other people. And is the conduit through which they experience all of your other alignments. It's almost like a navel, but in the center of your chest, and it goes out to everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I love the tree image. I have been researching for the story that I'm writing, and Pinterest has been quite helpful, even though there's a lot more AI imagery. But sometimes the AI imagery is very interesting. Lisa and I were looking at it last night, and she's like, "Is this AI?" I'm like, "It probably is, but it's very interesting. It's inspiring, even, which that's a whole other conversation." But the point is, there was a divine feminine, which was not AI. It was a piece of art, and they had her sort of laying supine, and through her navel was growing the tree of life. And I'm like, I like that. That's great imagery. That's very great imagery. I like that idea, and I liked the connection of the divine feminine with the third chakra, because in my story, the third chakra has a divine feminine element to it. So I was like, this is really cool. So I saved it to kind of inspire me later. But yeah, the connection with the world, right? And the third eye is seeing the truth of connection. In the Buddhist sense, it would be that there is no difference between you and me. Right? That's the truth that the third eye is awakening us to, is that you and I are the same, right? The divine in me sees the divine in you.
Yeah, namaste.
And the heart is like that place where, to me, it's not emotion. Like, emotions are lower, emotions are different. This is peace, but it's also joy and sorrow. It's those deep connections that run between us. Like you were talking about, like the roots. I love that imagery. That's a great image. And binding's not bad, right? Like in marriage, we bind. In rituals, we bind. Binding. It brings and joins. When you graft something onto another plant, you have to bind it in order for it to heal, right? When we break our leg, we have to put it in a cast. We have to bind it to let it heal.
Well, and that concept is played out quite literally in a lot of systems. Like in Catholic weddings, you actually wrap hands together. In First Nations and the New World, when they would create blood friendships, they would tie their wrists together. There's something about the concept of closeness. And here's the thing, like when your leg is broken, you have a cast or the graft onto the plant, that binding is tight, and that binding is limiting, but that binding actually, what it does is it contains and it holds so that you can relax. If your leg is not set in place, it will move, it will not set. So by binding it in place, or binding the two hands together, binding the wrists together, whatever's being bound, the graft onto the plant, you're actually allowing that binding, the relationship itself, to do the work of holding something and giving it a container, so that I mean, it's kind of like a cocoon in a way, where whatever's inside can change into whatever it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a healed bone, okay. If that's a relationship between two clans, okay. If that's a marriage, whatever. But that symbol, if not the actual literal binding itself, gives you the security and the structure to just do what you need to do and be who you need to be. Because you've already got the parameters of the situation defined. You don't have to worry about that constantly. It's already there. It gives you security.
I like that.
And with this particular intersection, the way in which the heart intersects with the third eye, looking at yourself and understanding how you form connections to people, you have to be honest with yourself. Do you trust too easily or not easily enough? Do you reward people too much or too little? Are you reliable or not? Be honest about the types of relationships you form. And make sure that what you're giving people is fair to them while being fair to you as well. But, for a lot of my life, for example, I simply ignored red flags because I thought I was being judgmental and I thought I was being mean and I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. And it caused me extraordinary danger. Mm-hmm. There were times when it put me in extraordinary danger. And I had to finally recognize that my trying to be non-judgmental is making me unsafe. Likewise, there were other times in my life where I was so guarded, so insanely guarded, that no one could get in. And that wasn't really any better because I missed out on being connected to people who might have been very good for me. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. If you don't understand the way you form connections, you can repel what you need and absorb what you don't, which is what I did for a long, long time.
Well, you brought up the idea of trust, which, is hovering around truth and hovering around hypocrisy and, the idea of doing what you say. If you do what you say, you're trustworthy, right?
You're worthy of trust. Yes, exactly.
It's really the only way to prove out trust. Like I worked for a doctor who took that very literally. You started with zero trust with him, and then if you delivered, if you did what you said you would do, then you gained trust. It was a very literal part of that process. And in our lives, we tend to start with an amount of trust. But
until you show me that you don't need it or shouldn't have it.
I saw I think it was a child psychologist, and she talked about the marbles. And, there's people that put marbles in your jar, right? They perform an act that gives you trust in them. And then there's people that take marbles out of your jar, right? Which break your trust in them. Mm-hmm. And every person in your life has a jar. And the question is, who in your life, whose jar is full of marbles? Those are the people that you should trust. So for you, ignoring the red flags is the problem. You gave a modicum of trust, and when they took the marbles out, you just ignored it.
Yep. Well, and what's interesting is, in my situation, I am so very good. I have like genius level superpowers for finding red flags, and even more for ignoring them. So I'll go through and find all 72 of these red flags and ignore 74 of them. There'll be 2 more on top of it, and I'll just ignore them too.
Yeah. So I like where we're at. We've got honesty, transparency through action, right? The antagonist of hypocrisy. We've got will, right? Which is enacting upon others what should be truthful and loving actions. It connects to the crown chakra, so that, bringing that divine soup, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, bringing that energy to influence the people in your life and around you, and do that in a positive way, right? And through truth. Like the director acts through truth. And now here, the heart, right? We have the heart interacting with the third eye. So seeing things as they truly are and connecting with those things as they truly are. And it's hard because, like, you know, even have Jesus, you know, love your neighbor. I got some bad neighbors, I have to tell you. I got some tricky family members too. We had a party, and you know, some things were said, and I'm like, no, not true, not true, false information. But I still have to love them, right? Like I still have to see the divine in them. But to your point, I don't have to trust them with,
and you don't have to ignore the red flag.
Yeah, I don't have to trust them with everything.
No, you give them, well, look at the word trustworthy. Which forms of trust are they worthy of? It doesn't mean that they're necessarily worthy of every trust that you have. And before we move on to the next card, I'd like to bring up conflict avoidance, because if you're going to be modeling your truth, and if you're going to be sharing it, and if you're going to be going forth in the world and being your most fabulous self, you're going to bump into people who don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to what degree is it appropriate to be conflict avoidant? I am too conflict avoidant. I should have more conflict, frankly, than I do. And that's potentially a weakness in myself, but I simply do not feel like dealing with conflict anymore. I had enough of it when I was little. I don't feel like dealing with it now. And as a result, it means that a lot of what I would have wanted becomes undermined by somebody else's truth. And it isn't that I'm saying that you should be instantly combative, but if there's something that's actually wrong in a situation being worked upon you, think about the degree to which you will or will not tolerate the conflict. Because if you participate in zero conflict, then you're going to get stonewalled, and all this stuff you're trying to model and manifest and embody will get blocked by other people's truth.
Well, I mean, this is radically apparent in America today, because you have one group of supposed representatives who avoid conflict and capitulate, expecting the other side
to be polite
and and to have that, you know, elder statesman interaction. And the other side is all about conflict. Like they stand on conflict. They want conflict. Conflict is where they live and breathe.
Well, they thrive in the chaos it creates.
And if you avoid conflict with them, then they win every time. Like every time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've seen that. We've seen that recently, where people have stood up from the other side and said, no, we will have conflict with you. Like, we are in conflict with you. And it made a huge difference. People were like, yes, this is truth. You are speaking it. Keep speaking it. Yeah. I have a coworker at work who's very conflict avoidant, and she's in a leadership position, and bad things are happening. Bad things perpetuate because you avoid the conflict of accountability. And that is, I think, the word that we haven't used yet, but that is a very important word. Accountability is where you maintain trustworthy and how you deal with breaches of trust.
Well, and being honest about how you're holding yourself accountable, not just the accountability you expect from others, but what you expect from yourself. Because it can become easy to make that an external kind of judgment instead of an internal evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely, there has to be accountability as you're going forth and embodying your truth and sharing it and blah, 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 and making these connections and having these relationships. But it can't all happen in a vacuum of no consequence.
Well, accountability isn't even consequence. I mean, it's part of it. It's definitely part of it. But accountability isn't negative, and it's become synonymous with negative, and I hate it, especially in leadership.
Because people get canceled instead of accountability, they just get outright canceled.
It's accountability is actually a good thing. Accountability is rewarding. Accountability says, "Hey, you set out to do this. You did it. Let's celebrate." I mean, that's accountability is you did what you said you were going to do. That is awesome. But the flip side, of course, is that you didn't do what you said you would do. And then you have to, take that, understand that, learn from that, and get better. And sometimes also it's recognizing that what you said you were going to do actually turned out to be not what you should do. And that's good too. But you have to have the accountability for it to understand it. There's a card in the next sequence called Defend, which is justice in the tarot. And the idea there is that you have to defend your actions. And that doesn't mean that, you're under accusation. It just means you have to take what you've done and account for it.
So you don't have to be defensive.
No.
You just have to be defendable.
Exactly. And
defensible, is that the right word?
Defensible, yeah.
So
you have to live that way.
It reminds me of being at UCLA and having to defend my thesis. And I went into it I didn't go into it feeling particularly nervous because I knew I'd done it so well, but I knew I'd done it so well because of the constant checking in and the constant feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I did not create that concert in a vacuum. There were all sorts of voices. It was nothing like what it was supposed to be. I don't think they necessarily improved it, but it was very rich. It was very thorough. And when I wrote the 100-page analysis of the concert afterward, I went through and I defended everything. And it was accountable. That was the final accounting. And we need accounting in general, but accountability specifically to understand the way in which we have or have not met our goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm working on a dissertation. Well, not kind of. I haven't officially started yet, according to the school, but I've started because I'm going to be done in 3 years. No, she is not.
She's not doing 7 years.
She is not doing 7 years. No. 3 years.
She got things to do. She's being accountable.
Yes. So, but one of the tricks is that you're in charge of running your mentor, and you have to do the check-ins. And if falter, in silence, and then you get to usually you don't fail the dissertation defense, but what you fail is the proposal defense. So you'll get to the proposal and they'll be like, no. And it's because you haven't checked in. It's because you haven't held yourself accountable. It's because you haven't worked with the other to find the truth to move forward.
And so that's something to remember, is that you don't even have to define the truth or find the truth. You just have to manifest it and live it. But you don't have to be the one that codifies it.
No. It's the director. The director is not an expert violinist and does not understand how to bring the beauty out of the instrument, but they know what it sounds like when they hear it.
In coordination with 100 other people, all playing in a different key signature.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm drawing another one. Oh, we're sticking with the major arcana. Oh, this is hilarious. This is number 14, balance. This is literally the next incarnation of the director. What was still is, but what will be is still coming.
We've had this one recently.
I don't think so. This is similar to the renewal card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what was still is, but what will be is still coming. This is number 14, balance. This is Temperance in the major arcana in the tarot. And this is literally the next cycle of 7. So this is the crown chakra meeting the third eye.
So my first impression here is that there is a constant process, that you are constantly in the particular moment where you are embodying your truth based upon the understanding of it that has accumulated from the past in anticipation of how you will pay it forward in the next moment, that there is no static way in which to understand the truth. That context is adjusting at every moment. Your insight changes. You're mentioning third eye here. The way you understand, the amount you understand, all of this is in flux. And you can, if you discover something that changes the way you understand your truth, you can shift directions if you need to. You don't have to pick one line and stick to it from beginning to end.
No, there is so many ways to interact with the truth. There are so many truths to interact with. You have to pick some for you. And I do the cultural welcome at work. So I'm there for their first day. And I find this very impactful and very powerful. And I'm a huge proponent of it. In fact, I'm working to improve it and save it and make sure that it lasts forever, because I think it's highly important. And I know I'm going to sound like one of those bought in corporate management drones who's like, oh, we're all a family. No, we're not all a family. This is work. I get it. You're here to make money. No bones about it, right? You know, like I totally, I'm there to make money too. If I won the lottery, I would finish off what I was working on with them, and then I would leave and enjoy my retirement and never look back. No, I am, you know, I understand that there's an instrumental nature to work that will never change. However, I do believe that the work that you do, because of your limited time here on earth, the work that you do should be meaningful to you in some way.
I agree.
And you should find meaning in what you do. And sometimes you're not in a position where it's like, oh, and not everyone's going to be a doctor, right? Not everyone is going to be a paramedic. But like for me, I believe that I need to have a positive impact on people's lives when I go to work. And those are the jobs I need to take. And I was able to find that as a bookseller. I was able to find that as an optician. I'm able to find that now as a hospital administrator. But when you find your truths, you have to hold on to them. And we do this activity where people pick out postcards and they take either inspiration from the images or from the sentences on the back of the card. And they share how that relates to their personal values. And they're vastly different takes on things, but they end up coalescing around certain things. And you can tell who in the room is there because it's part of their values, because it's part of their identity and understanding, and how they have taken their truths and applied them to where they are in life. And then you can tell people that maybe are a little bit lost or don't have a clear sense of their internal truths. And you can't have all of them. I think that's why I like Zen Buddhism so much, is that the truth that brings enlightenment is different for everyone. And that's good. Like the Zen tend to not have all the scriptures, bearing down on them, right? And they don't try to integrate everything possible. They just try to come to truth through their path, through their way. And I think that's an important lesson for us, is that you have to have some truths. You have to have some balance in your life, right? The Temperance card is about pouring out, different cups and the mixing of them and how they work together. You only have two arms, right? You can only hold two pitchers. How are you mixing these fundamental truths to make you? And, what do you hold to be true so that you can guide yourself, you can will yourself to action, you can will yourself to being.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Let's get a final card.
Okay, we're gonna do deck number 4. It's gonna be a haiku.
So this seems an appropriate way to end today.
Number 23.
Ooh, one step down.
Okay. 23. We're still with wood, as you said, one step down into the throat. Back to aqua again. So, how I love is interacting with, I say, so green over aqua. So just about every card today has had the throat chakra on it. So a lot here going on today about honesty, truth, transparency. Okay, so this is going to be a haiku that takes imagery from the wood elemental and the air elemental and puts them together to create a metaphor, and the haiku is about that metaphor.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for words that have to do with wood and or air. Breeze, wind, hurricane. Ask, affirm, converse, critique, maturing jungle. Breeze, wind, hurricane. Ask, affirm, converse, critique, maturing jungle.
Brought to the second line. I like that flow.
Ask, affirm, converse, critique.
Ask, affirm, converse, critique. I like that. The maturing jungle, that's still processing. The wheels are still spinning on that one. I wasn't expecting jungle, which is fine. But that one's interesting because like hurricanes and jungles, when you say hurricane, I was picturing, the East Coast, and, the islands and things, and the jungle is interesting. And I like the pairing of maturing jungle. So I don't have a clear image on this yet, but I do like it's evocative, right? Like the first line and the third line are very evocative. I feel that, I see that, and the way that plays with the second line, I'm with you there. It's interesting. Yeah. Most of the time your haiku, I have an easier time with them, but this one has a little bit of challenge, and I like that.
Yeah, it can go in multiple directions that way.
Yeah, I like that. But I think for us, the middle line is kind of a good capstone. Was it ask, affirm,
converse, critique.
Ask, affirm. It's a good order. Ask, like when we talked about conflict. When you enter conflict, ask. Did you mean this? Like when you said this, is this what you mean? Affirm, yes or no. Converse, talk through it, and then finally, I think when you're saying that, I don't know that you understand the impact that it has on me or has on other people, and I would suggest that you think differently about that.
That's a mature conversation.
Or I absolutely agree with you. I think that's a wonderful thing to say, and I'm glad that I understand it now. Both of those are critiques.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A critique can be affirming or corrective. So
critical doesn't mean, again, accountability doesn't mean bad. Critical doesn't mean bad. Critical just means attention to detail.
Yes. And analysis.
And like in healthcare, there are very critical things. Like we don't want to leave an instrument inside someone.
Oh God, no.
So we take
or cotton ball or
we take every step to make sure that we've collected everything post surgery to make sure that nothing is amiss or nothing is awry, and that's critical to the patient's health. That's a critical moment where we're really analyzing things, and it's a critique upon. And then we review the surgery. There's a critique upon the surgery because pretty much everything can be better. Right? There's very few times where nothing could be better. It happens, and honor it when it does. But a good critique accepts the positives, honors the positives, but also honors that which could be better. And then the trick is to learn from that, to grow from that.
Yeah. And to be open to different types and qualities of conversation. So the breeze, wind, hurricane, if you're looking at the throat as having the elemental air, which I do in my system, not everybody does, but in my system, the throat is air. Then I say takes on different connotations, whether it's a breeze, a wind, or a hurricane. You can fight with people, you can argue, Don't do it mindlessly. Don't do it just to be mean. Don't do it to degrade people, but you can have very spirited conversations.
Well, it goes back to like gentle parenting. Interesting, good, troublesome. It comes back around sometimes. But if your child's running in the middle of the street, you don't gentle parent that.
No, you snatch them.
You scream at them, just freeze.
Yeah, you scream at them, you snatch them out of the street.
And, the hurricane is appropriate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes, like when you see some people in Congress having a hurricane, sometimes that's appropriate too. Remember what we said earlier about conflict avoidance? There are some hurricanes that need to blow. In terms of the maturing jungle, when you look at a jungle that hasn't been touched, and you're from the sky, it just looks like a carpet of green. But when you get down into that jungle below the canopy onto the ground, it is an absolute warren, an absolute labyrinth of connection. And so a mature jungle is not just one that's tall, it's one that's thick. And sometimes the type of connections that you build by way of conversations, those connections are influenced and encouraged and nourished by these conversations. So the metaphor for this respiration, plant respiration, so where wood and air meet, and the impact that air has on the metabolism of energy in a plant, and how air helps plants grow. So your conversations help you grow. They help your relationships grow. You have to speak to people. You have to share yourself and communicate. Otherwise, what are you growing together? There's nothing to build anything on. It's not just light that makes plants grow. It's water and air as well. And so in this instance, the idea is that your relationships become more complex. They become more mature, based on the degree to which you can communicate with people. And when you're out there trying to enact your truth and to go forth bravely in the world, that is going to require conversation with people. You will not be able to just walk out there and pontificate. People will ask questions. They will rebut. They will critique. You have to be prepared for that. It's part of what it means to develop your ministry of whatever your truth is. Jesus himself had to deal with people asking him questions and second guessing him. He came up with parables to do it. I'm not saying that you have to do it the way Jesus did, but the great teachers teach, and that is a conversation. Whether it's Buddha or whoever, these are conversations.
We have a members only Patreon. It's patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. You can get extended episodes where we talk about how the episode influenced us. We talk about our personal lives and things that the reading brought out for us and how it affected us. We also have a YouTube. It's Show Your Deck on YouTube. You can see the cards that we're pulling, the pretty pictures that we've made. You can experience the visual beauty as well as the auditory beauty. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. My books are available through Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. Jack's books are available through Jack. Our decks are available through a third-party distributor. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. It's the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU. On Instagram, that's at 49 Haiku. And on the interwebs, it's 49haiku.com.
Our show has an Instagram. It's at Your Deck. And we will say goodbye.